How do you build your coaching business the right way? If I could go back and give myself instructions, advice on, hey man, congratulations, you got the skill set. You're hungry to go out and help people. Now what? How do you actually start growing the business? And how do you do it not just with the short term in mind, but the long term in mind as well, so that you're set up to succeed 5 years from now, 10 years from now, especially with the rise of AI and everything going on? How do you build something correctly going forward? We're going to talk about that in this video. And I'm going to approach it from two really simple standpoints. I'm going to share a little bit about what I wish I would have done differently and what I really learned along the way. I'm also going to share some cautionary tales about other coaches that I've seen kind of start growing and then things fall apart for them and what not to do as well. So we're going to dive into the nitty gritty here in this video. But in essence, there's two ways you want to think about growing your business to really simplify everything down for you. You've got the short lane and then you have the long lane. And the mistake that I see is coaches typically favor one or the other, usually the short lane, but occasionally they do favor the long lane. And we're going to talk about that as well. But they favor one or the other, or they mess up the timing of one or the other, or they start to switch too soon from one and neglect the other one, and things fall apart. So, getting these two tracks, first of all, clear, then understanding when and why to build each one and how to go about doing that is critical in my experience. So let's start with the short lane. And what do I mean when I say short lane? The short lane is literally the fastest path for you to create clients. And it is through conversations. And it's through the relationships that you build to generate those conversations. This is why the majority of coaches build most all of their clientele through referrals and word of mouth. This is the big reason why. Not only because it creates the fastest way of getting clientele, but you don't have to build a website. You don't have to put out content. You don't have to really engage in marketing. You don't have to do these intensive time sinking activities. You can go directly to people you know. You can ask them for connections. You can build relationships. Your clients can then have great results with you. They can introduce you to more clients. And there you go. So you'll find in the short lane, the lifeblood of your business is your conversations. In other words, the exact amount of success that you have in your business is going to be directly correlated to the number of conversations that you have coming your way. And so if you have a constant flow of conversations, and when I say conversations, I don't necessarily mean discovery calls. I just mean literal get to know you conversations, coffees, lunches with people that either are your potential client or could connect you to your potential client. The more you're doing that over and over again, what happens is you start yielding clients from that. And if you're really good at actually systemizing that, which to me means you're just tracking the number of conversations that you're having, you're getting really good at asking for these conversations to happen. You're getting better at asking your existing client base for referrals. The more conversations are showing up in your calendar, the more clients you're closing, the more money you're making. And the mistake that I see here is some coaches get so excited about building the long lane that they actually neglect the short lane. They end up going, well, I've already gotten good at referrals and word of mouth. And so I'm going to just kind of park that for a little bit. And now I'm going to write my book and I'm going to market that online. I'm going to go crazy on getting my website done. And they spend weeks, working on the website. And the conversations drop off. And then they have one bad month, like that famine month hits really strong. And it's like, ooh, shit. Okay, we got to get back on the horse here. And so we want to avoid that mistake because I would say during the first 2 to 3, 4 years of your coaching business, you really want to be all in on conversations. You want to be having as many as possible. And to go along with this, though, to set yourself up for long-term success, you want to really think about a couple things here while you're having all these conversations. Because another mistake that happens a lot is a coach might just focus on referrals and word of mouth. They're getting really good at setting up these conversations, having these discovery calls, and ultimately enrolling clients, but they're not paying attention to patterns. They're not paying attention to the patterns of the challenges these people are bringing them. They're not paying attention to, okay, well, when is a person saying I'm ready for coaching? Like, what is the life moment before they raise their hand and say, hey, like I'm wanting to come to you? Or what is the scenario that's about to show up that the person is concerned about? Ultimately, the reason they're there to be coached by you. They're not paying attention to that. They're also not paying attention to the insights that they're getting from these client conversations. They're not actually capturing them and writing them down and going, hey, John had a huge breakthrough today because he realized this. And Tracy, another client of mine, also had a very similar breakdown and she realized something similar, interesting. And then Jonathan also had a breakthrough over here and he is realizing something similar. Interesting. There's a pattern here. There's an insight emerging that's going to be really useful when I start building my brand and wanting to attract clients to me. And so you want to really document, you want to pay attention to these insights and these patterns that are showing up in these conversations. They will be incredibly invaluable later. But you also want to start paying attention to who you're getting the best results with and who you enjoy working with the most. And when you start building that long-term lane, which means you're going to start going all in on your brand, you're going to start building assets for yourself, where you don't have to constantly kind of spin the hamster wheel. You can now have stuff that builds sustainably, building those systems. One of the things that you're going to want to start thinking about is I don't have to work with everyone. I can actually be more and more specific with who I serve. I can really dial in the niche. I can dial in who this person is, both demographically and energetically. And that's something that you're going to want to start paying attention to as you're getting all these conversations going. So you have one foot firmly in the now, in the how many conversations am I generating, but you also have another foot and an eye toward the future. Where am I going with this business? That's one of the mistakes that I see is when you kind of you end up jumping out of one to the other too soon. Now, another mistake that I see is you don't ever make it to the long-term lane. And this is the mistake that I made because I wanted to be in the long-term lane, but I was really put off by a lot of the tactics by the long-term lane people, the people that were telling me to grow a brand, people that were telling me to have like lead magnets and having a website and to maybe start running ads and to build funnels. And none of that stuff really appealed to me. Like I never had a desire to ultimately start like an email list. Like that wasn't top of mind for me. I love the connection and I love the coaching, and that's what I focused on. So I got really good at building out conversations, and then I got really good at actually creating conversations through LinkedIn. I got really good at expanding my network there, adding value to people, adding authentic human contact with them. I got really good at actually both offline and online meeting someone for the first time, building rapport, and then having them join me in a conversation. And then without expectation, having that lead to clients for me. I highly suggest you build the same skill sets. And if you don't know how to do that, that's literally what I do all day long. But the mistake that I made was I didn't quite keep my eye early enough on the long-term assets. In fact, I had a mentor tell me like, first year of your business, don't make any content. Don't put anything out there at all. Don't put up a website. He was staunchly like anti-content, anti-website. So I got really good at, again, like the relational side of business, but my long-term momentum really suffered from that. And only really recently have I put I would say, demonstrated effort to want to build these assets. And that's part of why I'm creating content on YouTube. That's why I'm literally doing this for you right now. What I love about this is I have something that can be watched today, it could be watched tomorrow, it could be watched a year from now, 5 years from now, and I'm consistently adding value for you and other people that otherwise wouldn't know me. And so this is key to scaling your business. This is key to not just being the only one. Now, I myself am not huge and going crazy with scaling your business because, again, the mistake that I see here, I had a good friend of mine that was like, he had a six-figure coaching business, was doing really well, and even kept raising his rates. It got up to 20, 30, I think at one point even $50,000. And then he was like, I'm all in on writing a book. And I bought this new system that's going to teach me how to use that book as a lead magnet and get it in front of people. And I'm going to build out my website. And I'm going to build out all this content. I'm just going to go nuts with this thing. And meanwhile, his referrals, his connections, and what actually was working to grow his business started really dying off. And then I caught up with him and he's like, yeah, man, like I had to give up the business. I had to go work a sales gig for someone else. And I don't want that to happen to you. So when we're building out the long-term assets, when you're creating your website, when you're creating your lead magnet, I like to chip away at this stuff daily. Keep, again, your focus on what's working. Don't kill the golden goose. So if you've gotten good at creating those relationships and those referrals, continuously ask yourself, how do I get better at this and better at this and better at this? And then at the end of your day, if you have 30 minutes free, if you have an hour free, say, hey, what are the patterns that are showing up in these coaching conversations? You know, what kind of content ideas am I getting from that? Is it getting more clear who my ideal client is? Is there a tribe of people that ultimately I want to work with a specific set of values and a what the hell am I saying? A specific set of challenges that I can solve. Say that 3 times fast. And what's emerging here? And you start to over time build this out. And you also don't need it to grow quickly. You're not worried about it just blowing up. You have confidence because you already have something over here working. And so now long term, you're starting to build some momentum over there. And so now you can start creating more informed content, more informed YouTube videos. You're not just kind of reacting, going from client to client to client, staying stuck in the world of referrals and word of mouth forever. You have broken out of that. And now you really have a message starting to show up. You deepen your purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing. You know exactly who you're helping. You know how you're helping them. You have a bit of a methodology because, again, you've been building these assets. And so the more you start to put the coal onto that fire, the more it starts to grow. And then your need to get creative or intentional with creating conversations lessens and lessens and lessens. And now you have these assets that are working for you. So that's ultimately my advice on building your coaching business. You want to do both. You want to master the short lane, you want to master the long-term lane. And again, go all in on both of those things. If there's anything I would encourage you, it's chip away at the long-term assets. Don't be like me and just go all in on the conversation relationship side and continually putting off the long-term side. That's like the number one regret I have in my business is I kind of dabbled on YouTube a little bit. I kind of dabbled with posting content. I had a few different websites, but I didn't have anything that I feel like, yes, like this is here in perpetuity. And so be conscious of that, create it, put it to work for you in your business. So there you go. Leave me a like if you like this. Leave me a comment if you loved it. Subscribe, especially if you want to stick around for more. And I will see you in the next video.